In the heart of the Vatican, where ancient stones whisper secrets of eternity, a man kneels in prayer, his white robes cast aside for the simplicity of a shepherd's heart. He is no ordinary pontiff, no bearer of rigid dogma, but Pope Francis, a soul whose compassion radiates like a lantern in the dark. In the stillness of a candlelit chapel he speaks, not as a ruler of the church, but as a humble seeker, his voice trembling with the weight of truths too vast for mortal tongues. What lies beyond the veil of death? Where does the soul journey when the body falls silent? These are not questions he answers with scripture alone, but with a vision born of love, a vision that pierces the shadows of fear and unveils the light of eternity. Francis, a man who has walked among the poor, who has wept with the broken, sees death not as an end, but as a doorway, a passage through which the soul steps, unshackled from the burdens of flesh, into a realm where time dissolves and love reigns supreme. In rare moments of solitude, he has shared glimpses of this journey, not in grand sermons, but in quiet reflections, as if whispering to the stars. His words, like ripples on a sacred river, carry a message that resonates beyond the walls of St. Peter's. The soul is eternal, a spark of the divine that cannot be extinguished, a flame that dances through dimensions unseen. Imagine a place where judgment is not a gavel's strike, but a mirror of the heart, where heaven is not a distant throne, but a state of being, woven from every act of kindness, every tear shed for another. This is the afterlife as Francis envisions it, a tapestry of light, where the soul, freed from its earthly shell, embarks on a pilgrimage of truth, forgiveness, and reunion with the divine. Yet this journey is not without its trials, for the soul must face itself, stripped of masks, bathed in the radiance of its own deeds. Tonight, we unravel the sacred whispers of Pope Francis, a man who sees beyond the doctrines of his predecessors to a truth as ancient as the cosmos. Death is not a rupture, but a return. Join us as we trace the soul's odyssey through realms of light and shadow, guided by a pontiff whose heart beats in rhythm with the universe. What awaits us beyond the final breath? Let us listen, with open hearts, to the voice of a shepherd who has heard the call of eternity. In the heart of the Vatican, where ancient stones hum with the prayers of centuries, a man kneels in a candlelit chapel, his white robes cast aside for the simplicity of a shepherd's heart. He is Pope Francis, not a pontiff clad in grandeur, but a soul whose compassion radiates like a beacon through the fog of human sorrow. In the stillness he speaks, not with the thunder of doctrine, but with the gentle tremor of a man who has glimpsed beyond the veil. What lies past the final breath? Where does the soul wander when the body falls silent? These are not questions he answers with rigid scripture, but with a vision woven from love, a tapestry of light that pierces the shadows of fear. Francis, who has walked among the poor, who has cradled the hands of the forsaken, sees death not as a chasm, but as a doorway, a sacred passage through which the soul steps, unshackled from the weight of flesh, into a realm where time dissolves and love reigns eternal. In rare moments of solitude, shared only with trusted confidants, he has whispered of this journey, not in grand homilies, but in reflections as intimate as a father's lullaby. His words, like ripples on a sacred river, carry a truth that transcends the walls of St. Peter's. The soul is a spark of the divine, an ember that cannot be extinguished, a flame that dances through dimensions unseen. Imagine a place where judgment is not a gavel's strike, but a mirror held to the heart, where heaven is not a distant throne, but a state of being, woven from every act of kindness, every tear shed for another's pain. This is the afterlife as Francis envisions it, a pilgrimage of truth, forgiveness, and reunion with the Creator. Yet this journey is not without its trials, for the soul must face itself, stripped of masks, bathed in the radiance of its own deeds. Tonight, we unravel the sacred whispers of a pontiff whose heart beats in rhythm with the cosmos, a man who sees death not as a rupture, but as a return to the light. Join us as we trace the soul's odyssey through realms of shadow and splendor, guided by a shepherd who has heard the call of eternity. As the body breathes its last, what becomes of the soul? Pope Francis, with eyes that have seen both the frailty and the divinity of humanity, describes this moment as a great unburdening. The soul, he says, slips free from its earthly vessel like a bird released from a cage, its wings unfurling in a realm where gravity holds no sway. This is not an end, but a beginning, a transition into a subtler dimension, where the weight of pain, the chains of regret, and the illusions of the material world dissolve like mist before the dawn. In this sacred instant, the soul feels relief, as if a heavy cloak has been lifted, revealing its true essence, a radiant thread in the tapestry of God's creation. Yet freedom is not the final note of the journey. Francis speaks of a threshold realm, a place neither heaven nor hell, but a space of awakening. Here, the soul lingers, its memories of earthly life as vivid as a fresco painted in light. It sees the faces of loved ones, the moments of joy, the wounds it inflicted, and the kindness it bestowed. This is not a courtroom, but a mirror of truth, where the soul gazes upon itself without deception. For some, this moment is disorienting. Francis recounts stories of souls who, unaware of their passing, reach out to touch the living, their voices unheard, their presence unseen. They linger, he says, not out of punishment, but because they have not yet embraced the truth of their departure. These souls, caught in the echoes of earthly attachments, grief, anger, or unfulfilled desires, hover in a twilight state, a slumber without dreams, until a gentle realization dawns. They are on the other side. Guided by Francis's words, we see that this transition is not to be feared, for it is the first step toward reunion, a journey inward where the soul begins to understand its eternal nature. With a voice soft as a prayer, he assures us, "You are never alone in this crossing. The light of love awaits you, ready to lead you home." In the tender embrace of the afterlife, the soul encounters its first trial, not a judgment imposed by a distant deity, but a self-reckoning bathed in the light of truth. Pope Francis, whose life has been a testament to humility, describes this as the mirror of the soul, a moment when every deed, every word, every unspoken thought is laid bare. This is not a spectacle of shame, but a sacred unveiling, where the soul sees itself as others have seen it, feels the ripples of its actions as they touch the hearts of those it met. Imagine standing before this mirror, where the laughter you shared with a stranger glows like a star, and the pain you caused another stings like a wound reopened. Francis speaks with quiet conviction. This is not punishment, but understanding. The soul feels the tears it caused, not to suffer, but to learn the depth of love. Every act of kindness, every prayer whispered in the dark, becomes a thread of light, weaving the reality in which the soul now dwells. Conversely, every moment of cruelty or neglect casts a shadow, a weight the soul must release through forgiveness, of others and of itself. This mirror, Francis teaches, is the first of many thresholds. For those who lived with malice, the reflection is heavy, a cold solitude of their own making. Yet even here there is no eternal damnation, only a call to heal. God does not condemn, he says, for God is love, and love waits patiently for every soul to turn toward the light. For those who lived with compassion, the mirror is a garden of radiance, a prelude to higher realms. This stage, neither swift nor endless, is a sacred pause, where the soul prepares for its ascent, learning that the greatest judgment is the truth it sees within. With a voice that carries the warmth of a father, Francis beckons us to live with love, for the mirror awaits us all, ready to reflect the beauty or the burdens we have sown. Beyond the mirror, the soul embarks on a journey through realms of light and shadow, each a reflection of its inner state. Pope Francis, whose heart has always sought the marginalized, envisions these not as places, but as states of being, woven from the choices made in life. The soul, now a radiant ember, moves through dimensions that resonate with its vibrations, guided not by force, but by the gravity of its own love or lack thereof. The first realm Francis describes is the shadow veil, a twilight where souls linger who clung to earthly desires, wealth, power, or unresolved anger. This is not hell in the traditional sense, but a self-imposed exile where the soul dwells among the echoes of its attachments. Here, time is fluid, and some may linger for what feels like years, trapped in a cycle of longing until they release their burdens through forgiveness. This is not punishment, Francis assures, but a cleansing, a chance for the soul to shed what no longer serves it. For those whose lives were marked by love, the journey leads to the realms of light, radiant dimensions where compassion, humility, and faith become the air they breathe. Francis speaks of a garden of mercy, where souls who served others find peace, their hearts entwined with the love they gave. Beyond this lies the sanctuary of truth, a realm for those who sought wisdom, whose lives were a pilgrimage toward understanding. Each realm is a step closer to the divine, a refining of the soul's essence. Yet, Francis warns, no soul is forced forward. The journey is a choice, a willingness to embrace the light. His voice, steady as a lighthouse, reminds us, the afterlife is not a destination, but a becoming. Live with love, and your soul will find its home in the embrace of God's eternal grace. At the heart of the soul's odyssey lies a profound moment, the choice of return. Pope Francis, whose life has been a call to serve, teaches that the afterlife is not a static eternity, but a dynamic journey of growth. The soul, having passed through realms of reflection and refinement, stands at a crossroads, to ascend further into the divine embrace or to return to the earthly plane, clothed once more in flesh, to continue its lessons of love. This choice, Francis explains, is not a mandate, but an act of free will, rooted in the soul's desire to heal, to learn, or to serve. Reincarnation, he says, with a nod to the universal threads of faith, is not a cycle of punishment, but a gift of opportunity. Some souls, radiant with compassion, choose to return as teachers, healers, or quiet bearers of light, their lives a bridge for others to cross. Others, still bearing the scars of unresolved lessons, return to mend what was broken, to forgive what was unforgiven. Each new life is a canvas, painted with the colors of the soul's past and the hopes of its future. Francis shares a vision of the Hall of Choices, a luminous space where the soul, guided by celestial companions, perhaps loved ones or saints, reviews its journey. Here, it sees the threads of its earthly lives, the moments of triumph and failure, and chooses its next path. No life is accidental, he says, his voice a soothing balm. Every struggle, every joy is a lesson the soul has chosen to embrace. For those who fear the trials of return, Francis offers hope. God's love is the compass, guiding each soul to the place where it can grow. This choice, neither hurried nor eternal, is a testament to the soul's freedom, a whisper of the divine trust in our capacity to love. As the soul navigates the afterlife, it is never alone. Pope Francis, whose faith is anchored in community, speaks of celestial guides, not angels with golden wings, but souls who have walked the path before, radiant with wisdom and love. These guides, often those we knew in life, a parent, a friend, or even a stranger whose kindness left an indelible mark, appear in the moment of transition, their presence a warmth that banishes fear. "You do not step into darkness," Francis assures, his voice a melody of comfort. "You are met. You are led." In the threshold realm, when the soul first realizes its passing, these guides offer a touch, not physical but spiritual, like sunlight on a winter's day. They lead the soul through the mirror of truth, whispering courage as it faces its reflection. In the realms of light and shadow, they walk beside, offering silent strength as the soul chooses its path. Francis recounts moments of prayer when he felt such presences, as if the saints themselves stood at his side, their voices a soft echo of God's love. These guides, he teaches, are not distant figures, but companions of the heart, bound to us by the threads of love woven in life. Their role is not to judge, but to illuminate, to help the soul see its own beauty and its wounds. For those who linger in the shadow veil, the guides wait patiently, their light a beacon for the moment of awakening. Even in the darkest corners, Francis says, love finds a way, carried by those who have never forgotten you. This truth, radiant as a star, reminds us that the afterlife is a communion, a tapestry of souls united in the eternal dance of grace. As the soul journeys through the radiant realms or lingers in the twilight of its own making, it encounters a profound revelation, a tapestry of love and pain, woven from the threads of its earthly life. Pope Francis, whose hands have blessed the weary and whose heart has borne the sorrows of the world, describes this as the weighing of the soul not by a divine arbiter, but by the soul's own understanding. In this sacred moment, the soul does not merely see its deeds, it feels them, as if stepping into the hearts of those it touched. Imagine a mother's joy at a child's kindness, now a golden thread that wraps the soul in warmth, or the sting of a harsh word, now a shadow that whispers for healing. Francis speaks with a tenderness that pierces the veil. The soul experiences the laughter it sparked, the tears it caused, not to be judged, but to know the weight of love. This is no courtroom of condemnation, but a garden of awareness, where every act of compassion blooms as a flower, and every wound left unhealed calls for forgiveness. For those who lived in hatred, the tapestry is heavy, a labyrinth of cold silence. Yet even here, the light of mercy waits, patient as a star. Francis recounts moments of prayer when he felt the pain of the world, war, poverty, division, as if it were his own, a glimpse of the soul's reckoning in the afterlife. No soul is lost forever, he assures, his voice a beacon in the dark. Even the darkest heart can turn, for love is the eternal force that binds us all. This stage, neither swift nor endless, is a crucible where the soul refines itself, learning that every choice in life was a brushstroke on the canvas of eternity. With words that resonate like a hymn, he urges us to live with kindness, for the tapestry we weave now will be the reality we inhabit when the body falls silent. Beyond the tapestry, the soul arrives at a luminous crossroads, the hall of decisions, a sacred space where the future of its journey is shaped. Pope Francis, whose life has been a testament to service, envisions this not as a physical chamber, but as an energetic convergence, where the soul, bathed in light, stands in communion with its celestial guides. Here, it reviews the arc of its existence, not as a ledger of sins, but as a story of growth, a narrative of lessons learned and those yet to be embraced. In this radiant hall, the soul sees the threads of its past lives, if such there were, and the possibilities of lives to come. Francis speaks of this choice with reverence. The soul is not bound by fate, but gifted with freedom. It may ascend to the divine embrace or return to the earth, clothed anew in flesh, to continue its pilgrimage of love. Some souls, radiant with compassion, choose to return as beacons, parents, healers, or quiet saints, whose lives illuminate the path for others. Others, still carrying the weight of unresolved pain, choose to return to mend broken bonds, to forgive what was unforgiven, to love where love was withheld. Francis shares a vision of this moment, where the soul, guided by familiar presences, perhaps a grandmother's gentle smile or a friend's steadfast gaze, sees the purpose behind every trial. "No suffering is without meaning," he says, his voice a soothing balm. "Every tear shed in life is a seed planted for eternity." The Hall of Decisions is not a place of haste. Some souls linger, basking in the light, while others, eager to serve, choose swiftly. This choice, born of love, is a testament to the soul's eternal freedom, a whisper of God's trust in our capacity to grow. With a heart open to the cosmos, Francis calls us to live with purpose, for the decisions we make now echo in the hall where our soul will one day stand. In the afterlife, the soul is not severed from the world it left behind. Pope Francis, whose prayers have carried the hopes of millions, speaks of the echoes of the living, a sacred connection that binds the departed to those still bound by flesh. Some souls, he says, linger near their loved ones, not as ghosts haunting the shadows, but as unseen companions, their presence felt in a sudden warmth, a fleeting memory, or a dream that lingers past dawn. These are the souls who have not yet fully crossed, held back by love, regret, or words left unsaid. Francis recounts stories from his ministry, grieving families who felt the touch of those they lost, a widow who sensed her husband's laughter in the wind. "These are not illusions," he says, his voice steady as a rock. "They are the soul's attempt to speak, to heal, to say what was left unspoken." For some, this lingering is a burden, a refusal to accept the truth of their passing. They hover in the threshold realm, caught in a dance of longing, until they release their attachments through forgiveness or the love of those they left behind. "Speak your love now," Francis urges, "for the words you share in life are the bridges that ease the soul's journey." For others, the connection is a gift. Souls who have ascended to the realms of light may return as silent guardians, their love a whisper in moments of despair, a strength in times of trial. Francis tells of his own prayers when he felt the presence of saints or departed friends, their light a reminder that the veil between worlds is thin. This truth, radiant as a dawn, reveals that death is not a separation, but a reweaving of bonds, a communion that transcends time. With a voice that carries the weight of hope, he calls us to live with love, for every heart we touch becomes an echo that resonates in eternity. For those souls who choose not to return, a higher calling awaits in the realms of light eternal, dimensions of pure radiance where the soul becomes one with the divine. Pope Francis, whose life is a prayer for unity, envisions these realms not as distant heavens, but as states of being, where the soul sheds all traces of ego and bathes in the boundless love of God. Here the soul is no longer a solitary spark, but a ray of light merged with the sun, its essence preserved, yet transformed into something greater. Francis describes these realms as gardens of divine communion, where souls who lived for others, mothers who sacrificed, teachers who inspired, strangers who offered kindness, dwell in a harmony that is both peace and purpose. Beyond this lies the sanctuary of creation, where souls become co-creators with God, their love a force that shapes new worlds, new beginnings. These are not places, he says, his voice trembling with awe, but realities woven from love, where the soul knows itself as part of the divine plan. Yet even in these realms, the soul's journey continues. Francis speaks of souls who, having completed their earthly lessons, choose to serve as guides or protectors, their light reaching back to the living. a quiet strength in moments of darkness. He recalls moments of prayer when he felt such presences, as if the heavens themselves whispered, "You are not alone." This vision, radiant as a constellation, reveals that the afterlife is not an end but a becoming, a state where the soul lives not for itself, but for all creation. With words that soar like a hymn, Francis calls us to live with love, for every act of compassion is a step toward the light eternal. As the soul's odyssey unfolds, Pope Francis offers a final reflection, a map of the soul's journey, not a geography of places, but a cartography of consciousness. This is not a map drawn in ink, but etched in the heart, its paths illuminated by the choices we make, the love we give, the forgiveness we offer. Francis, whose life has been a bridge between the earthly and the divine, teaches that heaven and hell are not destinations, but states of the soul, shaped by the vibrations of our lives. There is no external judgment, he says, his voice a gentle tide. The soul finds its place by the light it carries. Those who lived in fear or malice dwell in shadows of their own making, not as punishment, but as a reflection of their inner state. Yet even here the door to light remains open, for God's love is boundless. Those who lived with compassion rise to realms where love is not a feeling, but the very fabric of existence, a harmony that sings of unity. Francis envisions this journey as a spiral of growth where each life, each death, is a step closer to the divine source. He shares a memory of a quiet night in Buenos Aires, when, as a young priest, he felt the presence of a departed parishioner, a reminder that the soul's journey is never solitary. We are all connected, he says, in life and beyond, by the love we share. This map, radiant as a dawn, is a call to live with intention, to weave a life that the soul will cherish in eternity. With a voice that echoes like a bell, Francis urges us, do not fear death, for it is not a cry but a whisper, a call to return to the love that never fades. As Pope Francis's whispers of eternity linger, join us in exploring the mysteries of the soul and the light beyond. Subscribe now to our channel for more journeys into the divine. Hit the bell to never miss a revelation, like to share the love, and comment below. What does the afterlife mean to you? Let's walk this path together, illuminated by truth and compassion.